Continuing on to lesson 3 of this second unit of American history, we're going to be talking about Prohibition today. So, as always, pretty please make sure you're listening for the effects of what Prohibition brought about or what even caused it. I'll even get to a little bit. And then at the end of all this unit, again, make sure that you are paying attention to those effects so that you can write the informative paragraph as you did in Unit 1. But if you in this lesson, you're going to see again the causes and the effects to prohibition. That's going to be the main idea. And then we're going to define what prohibition is here in a little bit, just in case on the off shot that you maybe don't remember what it is. So here it is. The 18th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says, and we're really just going to hone in on Section 1. Section 1 is the most important part for our purposes in this lesson. But it says, after 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, the sale, the transportation, importation, or exportation of intoxicating liquors in the United States and all of its territory is hereby prohibited. So my question for you is, what is the 18th Amendment saying in simple English? All right, so why did all this come around? And it really starts in the early 1800s. And people started noticing the effects that alcohol were doing. Okay, so first you see that domestic abuse was up. Men that were coming home drunk from the bars because of their culture back in Germany and Ireland and even here in the United States, I guess, that you would drink and you would drink to get the calories that your food supply would not often give. So therefore, they would drink lots of beer and they would come home and they would beat their wives, they'd beat their children, and that was overall a bad thing. Then they were also going to work being hungover and or still drunk. They noticed that industrial accidents happened. So that was really kind of the start. Then fast forward to World War One. So all of the supplies that are used to make alcohol, wheat, corn, barley, is all boiled up. Well, they realize that that is also the same ingredients that goes into making bread. So when you go into wartime supplies or making alcohol, the wartime supplies are going to win during time of war. So therefore, it was seen as unpatriotic to be making alcohol and drinking alcohol. So in 1919, our U.S. government, they passed the 18th Amendment that we just talked about. And you're going to notice that the law itself is called the Volstead Act. So hereby, alcohol, you cannot drink it, you cannot transport it, move it, whichever. You can't make it. The only thing they forgot to leave out or put in there, the only thing they forgot to put in there is you can have it. So it's kind of a loophole that they are going to exploit here in a little bit. But anyways, Volstead, he was just a dude. His name was attached to it, and therefore that's kind of why it all came about. So when you go into how this impacted society, just like most issues, it's going to split it right down the middle. You're going to notice there's going to be a group of people called the Dries, and those are going to be the people that supported prohibition. Those are the ones that are going to say your health is at risk, your family's at risk, and then basically it's going to overall increase society for the better. You also had on the other side the wets, okay? And it makes sense when you think about wets versus dries, no alcohol versus alcohol. But the wets, they were saying that it's basically their freedom. They can do whatever they want. I mean, that's kind of like my body, my choice type of argument. But in this case, the people that were going into the wet side, I guess, of this were the ones that are going to be doing all the illegal actions, I guess you would say, going into the next couple of slides. So my first question for you, in the name of the law that is what is the name of the law prohibit? Let me start over here. The name of the law that started prohibition was called what? And then also, true or false, the topic of prohibition caused no social conflicts. All right, so getting into the whole idea of breaking the law. So here's the unintended consequence of things. When you pass a law in order to get rid of alcohol to lower the crime rate because of all the bad things that alcohol was causing, it actually had the opposite effect. It actually increased people breaking the law because now technically when you're drinking something made out of with booze in it, you're breaking the law. So the wets are going to kind of rally around each other, I guess you would say, and the bootleggers are going to start to appear. And these are the people that illegally make alcohol at home. Now, some people were really good at it, and you can see this bottom picture where there's a still, and it's actually the right way of making it. And you also have people that are really bad at it, and they're going to be called bathtub Jenners. And this is the top picture. So notice the tub that that guy is making everything in, and it was most likely really, really bad. So you're going to notice they're going to be adding a bunch of different stuff to this really crappy booze pretty much to make it taste better. And the birth of the modern cocktail is now around. But this is not the only way that people were getting alcohol during the time. People were going to Canada, going down to Mexico, going into Cuba, and they were basically importing alcohol from wherever they could because there was a demand for it, going back to simple economics. So you're going to notice that where this alcohol is going is speakeasies, the illegal bars that were operated. So you had to speak quietly or speak easy about these places because if you were caught there, you went pretty much you got arrested. Well, anyways, in these establishments, you're going to notice that this is where the African American culture, the jazz, the flappers, and all the people we talked about in lesson 2 are going to start rocking and rolling, both literally and figuratively. And these are the people, the speakeasies, that are supplying what people wanted. And people noticing that there's an opportunity to make a lot of money. This is the birth of the organized crime because these are the people that are going to be operating these speakeasies or funding these speakeasies. So you're going to notice that this question pops up. So people that illegally made alcohol for consumption were called. The organized crime is going to pop up. So you're going to notice that demand for alcohol is going to start all of this. So people you've probably heard about, maybe Bugs Moraine. I almost guarantee you've heard of Al Capone. And these people are going to make equivalent to millions upon millions of dollars today. So where this is all going to kind of veer into the unethical part, I guess you would say, is that beyond making the booze, I guess you would say, or distributing the booze, they're going to get into drugs, they're going to get into prostitution and all this other stuff that organized crime is really known for. So they're also going to be paying government officials to kind of look the other way. And what does that mean? They're going to bribe them and they're going to help kind of make these gentlemen grow to be bigger than what we could ever describe. So you're going to notice again, people are not doing their job, and it basically prohibition wasn't working because of them. Okay, them paying off the police officers and such. So, how did prohibition come to an end? Because clearly everything is still legal today. Well, it didn't end until 1933. And you're going to notice that Congress is going to pass another amendment, the 21st Amendment, where it basically says the repeal of the 18th Amendment is hereby enacted. I forget the exact wording of it. But why all this was happening is because, as you just saw, prohibition straight up wasn't working. People were still finding a way, and it was just making more problems because all that alcohol that people were making wasn't really regulated by the government. And as I was talking about before, some was really bad and knocking on the door of being lethal, and it was killing people. So, anyways, where this all ends again is during the Great Depression, when people needed a drink and people needed a job and the government needed taxes. Alcohol kind of did all that, and the breweries kind of did all that, and the distilleries that went with it. So this is how prohibition ended. So my question for you is, unintended effects of prohibition included.